0.2 knots, 0.0 knots. Really quite disconcerting when you think you're thrashing through the water and you look over and the sand spit is only, what, 20 metres away, and you can see a rock and it's not moving. Well, after a very pleasant few days at Derawan with an excellent day's diving, it is now time to push on, and we're going to Maratua, which is the next atoll, which we can just about see over the horizon. It's about 30 miles away. We have to time it though, because there's a channel in and you can have adverse currents if you're not careful, so we're going to try and get there around about slack water. The interesting thing here though is trying to raise the chain, because we are anchored in among rock and sand, so I always have visions of the chain wrapping around the rocks here. So let's go and see how Liz is getting on.
Straight down, there's a little patch of rocks there, so you may want to have a look while I'm pulling it up and advise.
Okay. No wind, of course, but we are making good progress because we have quite a bit of current with us. Unfortunately, the log, which is the boat speed through-hull fitting, has clogged up, which is not unusual. I did clear it the other day, but it's clogged up again. That normally can tell us what kind of current speed we're getting and also the direction, but it's pretty obvious from working out how many revs we're doing and the direction in which the boat is pointing its heading versus its course. So we're having to counter some of that current which is coming down. The trick with this next entry is to try and hit it on a slack tide, because we have heard that the current can hit up to 5 knots. We could be coming in at half a knot speed, so we just have to be careful of that. It is also one of the biggest tides of the month. It's a spring tide at the moment, so I think we could be coming in quite early at this rate. The thing is, we do have the current with us, as I believe.
Famous last words. Unbeknown to us, there was a countercurrent which set against Esper as soon as we turned into the channel. Navigating through the confusing and difficult overfalls at the entrance took deep concentration and nerves of steel.
That's the scariest bit of navigating we've done in a while. We've got this very narrow channel and there is a current coming out. Meanwhile, we've got current out at sea going down. We hit some overfalls and we were like this as we were coming into the entrance of the channel. You can see now I'm having to manually steer because autopilot is not responding quickly enough, even if I put it on the high response setting. So we're now doing half a knot, and as you can see, we're kind of a bit all over the place. Don't forget we've got 2 boats in front and a boat behind as well, so we're being careful to try and maintain the same speed as them. But yeah, it's pretty hairy, very hairy. Quite exciting, but it's not something I'd choose to do on a normal day.
We took this drone footage a few days later to show you the narrow entrance, which, to be honest, looks pretty innocuous from above. But with every minute of that falling tide, the countercurrent got stronger. Just look at this footage of Jamie trying to keep the boat straight at half a knot. It might look like we're making progress, but all the movement you see is the water, not the boat. In fact, the current got so strong, one of the boats got stuck at full revs for an hour, doing 0.0 knots. It took what felt like an eternity to turn that corner.
I'm not sure if the microphone's picking it up, but we are, well, our tachometer lies sometimes, but we're probably close to 1900 RPM. And right up until this moment, we were doing between 0.2 and 0.8 knots. As we've come around into the corner, into the bay, it's just picked up. We've now just hit over 2 knots, but we're really thrashing it just to get out of this current. I was hand steering. I've put it on autopilot, but of course the autopilot is struggling a lot. So I think I better go back to the wheel and do it manually. Well, it's certainly a beautiful spot here, but it was an absolute to get into. 0.2 knots, 0.0 knots. Really quite disconcerting when you think you're thrashing through the water and you look over and the sand spit is only, what, 20 metres away, and you can see a rock and it's not moving. By the way, I forgot to mention, we have just re-anchored. We're now on the other side of the bay. Previously, we were over there, and now we're on the west side. So I think we've got some visitors with the police. How are you?
I'm good. Hello. We are from police from Maratua Island.
Yep. So yeah, sorry about that. I just kind of threw that into the mix there. You didn't know about this. This morning we all came over from our anchorage. Now this bay is pretty shallow in certain points. Sharon and Lindsay, with the shallowest draft, left this morning. They actually left on a falling high spring tide, which isn't ideal, but they ventured forth and they found that after you get over the little shallow patch where we were anchored, you come out into this great big bay, and it's approximately 5, 6, 7 metres. In fact, we're anchored in 7 now. And we've come sort of due west, so we are now on this. What you can see behind me is the west side. And in fact, it's a good place to be because this is where the majority of the hotels are, the dive schools, there's some villages, there's actually even an airport further down the coast. And what we're hoping is that perhaps we can hire some scooters and go for a little cruise around, certainly fit in some diving, and they've even managed to arrange with the hotel ashore for them to have beers and have some food as well. So it looks like we will be spending a few days at this location, which is no bad thing at all. It's a beautiful, calm anchorage and great scenery, and obviously plenty to do as well. So it's all good.
Glass of wine or beer.
Yeah, really nice. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, should we stay here for a night?
Yeah.
Well, we can rent a room, couldn't we?
Yeah.
One of the great things about coming to new places, of course, is lack of expectations. I don't really research places in advance too much. I know Liz does. I tend to concentrate more on the navigation and getting us there, but actually reading up on the places, sometimes I can be a little bit lazy, but at the same time this can be quite a good thing as well, because you have no expectations. When you eventually get here, there's always a little bit of a wow element. Now, who would have thought that this horseshoe-shaped atoll, which I had been eyeing up for some months, I must admit, would look anything like this. Every time I looked at the navigation of it, I always thought it was a little bit sketchy to get in, and sure enough it was. But once in, had no idea that this is what it was going to look like inside the lagoon itself, but also had no idea that there were places like this ashore. I mean, it's a pretty luxurious spot. You know, the fact that it does diving, each room with its own balcony, sun deck, it is gorgeous, isn't it?
We're on the dinghy and we're going to try and get to the other side of the island. Now, that would normally mean having to go miles outside the atoll and back round again, but obviously we're not going to do that. Atoll! So instead of that, we're going up a little river that will take us about halfway across the land, and then we have to get onto the jetty, and then hopefully a road will just take us over to the other side, to the village. We did want to get up at the beginning but the jetty is way too dilapidated, so we can't do the walk that we wanted to do, but we're going to take the dinghy as far as we possibly can, and then we will walk the rest of the way. So I wonder if there are any more turtles.
Right, now it's a little trek along this rickety old jetty. Actually, it's not too far, we're almost at the end. So we're about 2/3 in. Liz says we're going to walk the rest of the way, but actually what we're going to try and do is when we get into town, see if we can find a scooter hire place. Fishermen getting their boat ready. They all look pretty chilled. It's a very tight creek here. You can see we're in the mangroves here. It's a lovely little spot actually. We've got rock faces which we haven't seen for a while. It's one of the things we noticed about this atoll when we came in from the east side, is that there are sheer rock faces, which is, I mean, it doesn't sound particularly fascinating, but all of the islands that we've been to so far have been pretty low lying, and perhaps the tallest trees you'll see is maybe the odd coconut palm, whereas here they actually do have granite that's running around half of the island. Strong smell of epoxy fiberglassing, no doubt.
Yeah.
Fiberglass.
Fiberglass.
Polyurethane.
Wait, you.
How are you?
Ano man do ato ano?
Looks like they're just setting up, so we'll get something on the way back.
Jadi tinggal kok mendan sampai pasti.
Name? I must learn the Bahasa word for name. Anyway, this is the lady here who we rent the scooter off. 150 is 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 27 pounds, and she's got two. So let's go and get Liz. Elizabeth! Yesterday I was talking to camera about not having any preconceptions or
Helmet hair!
preconceptions of this island. The thing is that we had no idea what this island was going to be like, and it wasn't until we actually hired the scooters and jumped on them and started cruising through that beautiful countryside that I suddenly felt like I was on holiday. We're doing the proper tourist thing, renting scooters and cruising around a tropical island. A lot of people say it must be great being on holiday full time, but we don't see it like that. Being a liveaboard, it's just a lifestyle. It's not like every single day is a holiday. It may seem like that on YouTube, but it's not like that, of course. But when you take the dinghy ashore, rent a scooter and start cruising around an island like this, that's when you really feel like you're on holiday. So we're now at the dive centre we've been trying to seek out, and one of the assistants here has gone to get the manager. So we're going to stop off for a coffee, but look at this. This is why I feel like I'm on holiday. This is Suhar, and he is the skipper of one of the boats. So Suhar, can you tell me the names of all the dive sites? Again?
Iya, dive site Fantasi, World Day, terus Ingin Garden, Mitrip Day, So Space, Tata Tripik, Pedeles House, Kennel, many dive site here.
It is true, because I was looking at one of the dive maps at the Noah dive school, and when you look down the west side, it is literally dive site after dive site. And also what you can see as you look out, there are many jetties as well. Now I don't know if they're private or if they belong to each of the dive schools, because there are a number of dive schools down here. And so you've got these jetties that go out, and I reckon you could literally jump off the jetty and you could literally just dive here. But of course there's a reef that runs all the way down here, That reef drops off to over 500 metres. There is nothing in between 500 metre depth and a wall of coral.
Just really loving going around the island on the scooters. Oh, you get a nice breeze so you don't overheat. And there's so much greenery, it's wonderful. Not a huge amount of habitation, but every now and again little places where people are living and getting on with their work. Over my shoulder, over there, are our boats. They're quite a long way away. Jamie's got the drone up, see if we can get some nice drone footage. We've chosen a great day for it. The lighting is beautiful, the weather is perfect, so we're going to make the most of this for as long as we can.
What's your name?
My name is Agnes Monica.
Agnes?
Yes.
Oh, good name. What's your name?
My name is Dika.
Tika.
Yes.
Tika, and your friend?
My name is Debbie.
Debbie?
Yes.
Wow, these are very English.
Yeah,
Oh.
my name is Elizabeth.
Huh? What?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
The Queen.
Wow.
Little boy just came over and he said this is what his father got out there. Yeah. And I just can't resist it, it's so beautiful.
It is.
Yeah. So
So I think Liz is actually going to buy this. The little boy offered Liz the shell on the beach and asked for some money. Now, this presents a moral, environmental issue. You may have heard people say that you shouldn't collect shells, and you certainly shouldn't be buying shells off local people because you encourage them to scour the beach for shells, which of course make up part of the environment, the sand, so on. At the same time, you're giving them a little bit of money. We end up with a beautiful shell that would otherwise just break down and eventually become sand. So morally and environmentally, I'm not actually sure where I stand on this. It's an amazing shell. I've never seen anything like it before, in real life at least. We'll talk to Liz about it, but she's obviously not feeling too bad about it either because she's also buying it. I think she's buying it for 5,000 rupees, which is 25 pence.